The many establishment analysts who portrayed the communist Chinese dictatorship's new Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, as a supposed rival to the Western globalist-led international economic order must be awfully embarrassed right now. And those who believed them, hoping the brutal Beijing regime's bank was going to stand up to the World Bank, International Monetary Fund Axis in particular, must be sorely disappointed. It turns out the scandal-plagued World Bank and the Communist Party of China-controlled AIIB are going to be proud partners in globalism. Together, the organizations will seek to promote the dangerous agenda known as sustainable development while undermining national sovereignty across Asia by bankrolling regional integration. In a barely noticed press release sent out last week, the Chinese autocrat's international development organ, formally born just months ago, celebrated its first official joint financing agreement with the globalist World Bank. The two transnational megabanks agreed to a co-financing framework that will facilitate joint AIIB World Bank projects, including some that will begin this year. According to the announcement, the AIIB plans to approve some $1.2 billion in project financing this year, with World Bank joint projects anticipated to account for a sizable share. There are close to a dozen joint projects all over Asia being discussed right now in everything from transportation to water and energy, the banks said. I am delighted that today we are raising our partnership to a new level, World Bank Group President Jim Yong gushed in a statement posted on the Washington, D.C.-based organization's website. Signing this agreement enables our institutions to finance development projects together, and that is an important first step toward working with a new partner to address the world's huge infrastructure needs. As the world's multilateral development banks collaborate ever more closely, leveraging each other's financing and expertise, the people who will benefit the most will be the world's poor. The Communist Party of China operative leading the AIIB, Jin Liqun, who served as the brutal communist dictatorship's vice minister of finance before joining the Rothschild-led inclusive capitalism bandwagon, also celebrated the deal. I am very pleased today to sign this co-financing agreement together with World Bank Group President Kim, Jin said in a statement. The AIIB is very grateful for the generous and timely support offered by the World Bank Group throughout our establishment process, and we look forward to a long and fruitful relationship with ongoing cooperation in project co-financing and other areas. With the announcement, the two globalist financing giants confirmed what the New American has been reporting for over a year. Despite establishment efforts to paint the AIIB as a potential rival to existing globalist institutions such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, the Beijing-led bank will fit nicely with what the communist Chinese regime and Western globalists all regularly refer to as the emerging New World Order, this magazine reported in April of last year, citing official statements and mountains of evidence that the regime in Beijing is fully on board with the globalist agenda. Those analysts who relied on establishment sources for their information, however, sounded a bit confused. The Beijing-based AIIB has long been considered a potential rival to the World Bank, and received initial opposition from the United States, the World Bank's largest shareholder, over concerns that the new institution would not adhere to environmental and social safeguards or procurement standards, reported Divex.com. A leading source for news on the shadowy world of what globalists refer to as development machinations. Of course, it was only long considered a potential rival to the World Bank by those who still rely on the establishment press or Beijing's propaganda organs for information. In what appeared to be a carefully orchestrated propaganda stunt, the Obama administration did initially lead the world and the establishment press to believe it was opposed to the Chinese regime's effort to build its own new World Bank. Then, when all of the US government's staunchest alleged allies joined forces with Beijing's bank anyway, giving America what both the establishment press and the communist dictatorship's propaganda organs described as a black eye. Obama officials pretended to reluctantly get behind the effort to avoid being left out in the cold by a more powerful and clever regime in Beijing. It was a major, if half-baked, propaganda coup for communist dictatorship and its bank. The Reuters news agency, a key globalist mouthpiece promoting the establishment's narrative, summed up how the public is supposed to understand what happened and what is happening. The new bank, which signals China's growing economic clout, will provide an alternative to the World Bank and other Western-dominated multilateral investment banks, the news agency claimed, without a hint of irony, in a report about its new collaboration agreement with the World Bank. Despite opposition from Washington, U.S. allies including Australia, Britain, Germany, Italy, the Philippines and South Korea have agreed to join the AIIB. At least that is what you are supposed to believe. The message to humanity is simple: the United States is on its way down, communist China is on its way up, and Beijing will be a key player in what top globalists and Chinese communists all openly refer to as the New World Order. As the New American has documented extensively, though, it was hardly an accidental process. In fact, the mass-murdering Chinese communists have been supported by crucial backers among the Western establishment since the days of Chairman Mao and what Council on Foreign Relations types painted as his band of mere agrarian reformers. After a visit to China, globalist architect David Rockefeller wrote in the New York Times, "The social experiment in China under Chairman Mao's leadership is one of the most important and successful in human history." Estimates suggest more than 60 million human beings died in what Rockefeller called one of the most successful experiments in human history, making Mao the most prolific mass murderer to have walked the earth. Of course, that support from Western globalists for the savage dictatorship in China continues to this day. The Obama administration, for example, has been training Chinese military forces, after the Clinton administration provided some of America's most sensitive military technology to the regime. Communist Chinese agents are also being installed in leadership positions across a dizzying array of key UN agencies and other power centers of global governance. Rothschild banking dynasty protege George Soros even called publicly for the savage regime in Beijing to own what he called the New World Order as United States influence and power recedes. Ironically, perhaps, the World Bank itself has been using U.S. taxpayer funds, and money the U.S. government borrows from communist China, to build up Beijing's economy, and its power. Basically Chinese money is round-tripping, and, given that the World Bank lends to China on concessionary terms, hapless U.S. taxpayers are picking up the tab for the subsidized rise of a mercantilist rival to the United States, explained analyst Eamon Fingleton in an article headlined "How America's Hapless Taxpayers Are Funding China's Growth" published in Forbes. Adding insult to injury is that the World Bank has done nothing to pressure the Chinese to honor their commitments to open their markets. Worse, it has been financing the Chinese Export-Import Bank, whose principal raison d'etre is to hollow out manufacturing industries in the United States and other Western nations. Fingleton continued. Perhaps most startlingly, the World Bank has advanced $15 billion to help build up the Chinese aerospace industry. That is a large dagger aimed at the heart of Boeing, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and other American aerospace companies. It is not as if the United States can afford to take a laid-back view anymore. Aerospace is the last American major manufacturing industry that has not already become completely hollowed out. It gets even more ridiculous, though, if that can be believed. The full absurdity of the World Bank's activities is apparent only when you look at the two nations' overall aggregates, a current account deficit of $600 billion for the United States last year versus a current account surplus for China of $281 billion, the Forbes analyst concluded. Why is the largest debt nation in history, which is, of course, the United States, exporting capital to the largest creditor nation, China? When the globalist agenda for the New World Order and for China's role in it is understood, the answer to the question is obvious. For now, it appears that the corruption-laden World Bank, infamous for financing brutality, mass displacements, globalism, and even killings, will take the lead on joint projects. The Communist Chinese Bank, meanwhile, will be learning from its elder partner while helping to fund part of the agenda. The AIB is only now increasing their staff, explained World Bank boss Kim. So likely, the first projects will be that we do all of that project preparation, we do all the work that requires huge amounts of staff in a large and institutional infrastructure, and then they will simply co-finance. Because Americans are the largest shareholders and financiers of the World Bank, it seems that US taxpayers will again be subsidizing projects for Asia, and China in particular. News of the new agreement comes on the heels of a massive international scandal surrounding the top communist Chinese officials and their family members, many of whom, including family members of dictator Xi Jinping himself, were exposed in shady dealings in the Panama Papers leak. How the World Bank plans to protect its shareholders and US taxpayers in particular from the communist Chinese regime's widespread corruption and graft was not made clear in the cooperation announcement. The American people should immediately urge Congress to defund the World Bank, the IMF, and other globalist outfits that are being used to build up the much-touted New World Order. Unless it is stopped, traditional American-style liberty will continue to wane as communist Chinese-style tyranny becomes